the Raw Leadership Talk. When it's Tuesday, it's the Raw Leadership Talk, and today we continue with the series on Godly Leadership Part 3. It will be good to hear from you. Where are you watching us from? Great to know that you've been following us. In a moment, we shall begin the discussion of the day. Raw Leadership Talk comes to you early today. You know, the usual time is 8:30, but today, due to unavoidable circumstances, we decided to bring it to you from 8 p.m. Rather, you could connect, even as we get engaged in this particular discussion. So where are you watching us from? And connect with you. Thank you. For the last 2 weeks, we've been discussing, or last Tuesday, we've been discussing on global leadership. And today we continue with a series which we are doing for the entire month. We have been unpacking the reality of who is a godly leader and who is not a godly leader. And that is astounding. You know, they faced great challenges and overcame them with faith and endurance. And today, leaders can also face challenges and overcome challenges with faith and endurance. Irrespective of where you are and what you do, faith is such an important aspect of our lives that if we embrace it, we can be able as leaders to overcome great challenges with faith and endurance. A man called Glenn Ranger, president and CEO of Sovereign Group, on his article, 12 Most Inspiring Leadership Lessons from Bible Character, he says that for leaders in business today, there is much to learn from these ordinary people who made decisions that transformed them into extraordinary legends. Organizational leadership is in dire need of that level of conviction and determination. That even for CEOs and senior managers and professionals from different backgrounds today, they can look into the Bible and get lessons from ordinary people who transform themselves into extraordinary legends and went ahead to do great things. I believe the biblical stories of leaders and what they went through and how they overcame through faith and endurance can still be relevant today to many leaders, whether it's in the political, religious, or even business world. So where are you today? You can tap into the wisdom of the Bible and be able to transform yourself into an extraordinary legend who will impact your generation and move yourself into the reality of success and significance. And so today I want to draw your attention to 4 biblical leaders, what they went through, and lessons that we can learn from their simple lives and the way they did leadership that could impact us today and help us to do the same. And the first man that we're going to look today is Noah. And I'm sure all of you, irrespective of the religious background that you come from, you know or you have heard the story of Noah. And Noah brings to us one simple lesson that leaders do what's right even if they are alone. Leaders do what is right even if they are alone. A look into Genesis chapter 6 and verse 7 brings to our attention the story of Noah. Now Noah is given to build an ark. God had made a decision that sin was so much in the world and that he was going to destroy the world. But he makes a decision to save this one righteous man together with his family. But you know what? As Noah is boarding the ark, God says to him, "For you alone I have seen to be righteous before me in this time." For you alone I have seen to be righteous before me in this time. Genesis chapter 7, verse 1. You know, when Noah is given that particular instruction to build an ark, I'm sure as he begins to build the ark, people could look at him and wonder whether it's real or is just a joker here trying to mesmerize us with this content that the whole world was going to be destroyed by water. But you know what? Noah obeyed and did what is right, irrespective of the fact that he was alone. And by the end of the day, when he and his family entered the ark together with all the animals, 2 by 2, and then God locked the ark and the rains began to come, I'm sure by the third day, people knew there was something serious about whatever Noah had already told us. Great leaders or godly leaders do what's right, even if they are alone. Even if they are alone, they will go forward to do what is right. I want us to draw our attention to another man in the Bible. His name is Abraham. And I'm sure both Muslims and Christians can attest to the reality of the leadership of Abraham. Leaders embrace the unknown. Leaders embrace the unknown. That's the greatest lesson that comes out of Abraham's life. Genesis chapter 12, and Abraham was instructed to leave his comfort zone and go to a land which God will show him. And something surprising is that Abraham obeys, and together with his family, they move into an unknown place. They didn't know. They were simply following God's instruction. Leaders embrace the unknown. Abraham is told distance and uncertainty. Great leaders embrace uncertainty to their promised land. There is no way if you're going to go into your promised land that you're going to embrace your promised land without embracing first uncertainty and risk. Unfortunately, today we have a lot of leaders who like sitting on their comfort zone. They don't want to move an inch. But if you're going to move into your promised land, you've got to embrace uncertainty and risk. Leaders embrace the unknown. One of the things that I've learned about leaders is that great leaders are influenced by the 3 R's. They read, they reflect, they risk. Great leaders are influenced by the 3 R's. They read, they reflect, and they risk. If you want to be a godly leader, you've got to trust in God and embrace the unknown. There's so many things that are going to come into your life that you really do not have a lot of knowledge about. You have to embrace the unknown. You have to take the first step, even though you cannot see the entire staircase, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, and begin to move and embracing the unknown. Look, you don't know about tomorrow. You may have plans about tomorrow, and they say when you plan as though you're not going to die. But they say when you pray as though you're going to die the next minute. And you may have plans for tomorrow. You may have plans for next week, but you really do not know about next week. And some of the challenges and things that we will encounter as a leader will really be things that will call for you to embrace the unknown to find solution for them. Unfortunately, sometimes we want to embrace only the known, and that's where we hinder ourselves and hinder our breakthroughs into the reality of destiny. So if you're going to be a great leader to influence things in the right way, sometimes you don't really have to know everything. You simply need to embrace the unknown, read, reflect, and risk. And this will make you resilient and push you to the mountaintop of success and significance. Are you faced with an uncertain future? Do you see dim lights ahead? Are you willing to embrace the unknown to the promised land? Great leaders, they face the uncertainty with risk and they gain breakthroughs. Great leaders do read, reflect, and risk. And then there's also a story of a man called Joseph. And you all know Joseph lived here in Africa at a certain point. And the lesson that comes out of the story of Joseph is that leaders endure in spite of circumstances. Look, we have checked on the story of Noah, that leaders are willing to do the right thing even when they are alone. Abraham, leaders embrace the unknown. And Joseph, leaders endure in spite of circumstances. When you go and read the book of Genesis chapter 37, you will find right from there the story of Joseph. Joseph had a tough time, and that's why godly leaders are willing to endure in spite of circumstances. He was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers. Can you imagine your own brothers? First they want to kill you, then someone among them suggests that they sell you into slavery. Your own brothers. He was framed by his boss's wife because he refused to sleep with her and thrown into prison. His boss's wife was praying after Joseph, wanted to sleep with Joseph. But you know what? Joseph refused to sleep with his boss's wife. And because of that, he was framed and thrown into prison. He interpreted the dream of a prisoner who was released and restored to his position. But you know what? The prisoner forgot all about Joseph. It took years before he could eventually remember that there was a man called Joseph who interpreted my dream. He completely forgot about him. Tough times came to Joseph. But you know what? Tough times don't last, but tough people do. And so because of this, you can learn that leaders endure tough times. But later, Joseph is made leader of all Egypt, second to only Pharaoh himself. I mean, he became a man of wisdom when he interpreted the dream. And right here in Africa, Joseph brings a solution that saves the entire world. Leaders endure tough situations. Could you be in a tough situation today as a leader and you're wondering whether this is right? Look, godly leaders endure in spite of circumstances. Godly leaders endure in spite of circumstances. You could be facing a tough situation as a leader in your own home, or in your corporate organization, or as a religious leader, or as a political leader. Let me get you somewhere that godly leaders endure in spite of the circumstances. Endure in spite of the circumstances. You could be faced with a lot of temptation to do the wrong thing. But listen to me. When you position yourself to endure and say, I'm going to endure this irrespective of the circumstances that I'm in, you are set for great things. You are set for great things. And finally, I would like us to look at the story of David. Who doesn't know the story of David? I mean, all of us would like to relate to the story of David, and all of us would like to be like David. David was simply human, and he faced a lot of problems, challenges. Some of them he failed, some of them he succeeded, and that's how humanity is all about. But the greatest lesson that comes out of David's life is that leaders are not afraid of giants. Leaders are not afraid of giants. I don't know what kind of giants you're facing today. I don't know what kind of giants influence your life to such a level where you have a negative mindset, perspective about yourself and about your life. But leaders are not afraid of giants. When you read from the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, you find a man called Goliath. He taunts the Israelites and challenges them. David, the shepherd boy, steps into the scene and takes up the challenge. I mean, everybody was surprised. This is just a shepherd boy. Will he manage to slay the giant? The giant, I mean, he would come out and the entire army of Israel would run into caves. Nobody dared face Goliath until David came into the scene. He refuses the conventional weapon and goes for small stones and a sling. And that makes the entire thing a joke. But he knew what he was doing. When Goliath mocks him, his reply was, "You come to me with a sword and a spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord God of hosts, whom you have taunted." Godly leaders confront their giants of fear, failure, and fatigue. And sometimes in our own lives, we face different giants, and we move into, places of fear, places of failure, and so much fatigue. But when you face your giant of fear, failure, and fatigue, then you are able to overcome and move to the next level. What is that could be taunting you today? You face this particular challenge that is telling you, "Come, I'm going to crush you. You're not going to be you're going to be normal." They will look at you and wonder what really hit you. And you begin to hear voices within your mind that this is your last moment, that this is actually the time that is going to destroy you big time. Are you faced with this giant of fear, failure, and fatigue? You feel so confused. Are you in a place that you're so stressed and depressed and crushed and feel you can no longer lead in the right way? David teaches us a lesson. Leaders are not afraid of giants. Leaders are not afraid of giants. Let me speak to somebody. Maybe you are feeling like going into politics and you wonder, will I really manage? Because politics is really for people who behave in a particular way. I am a Christian, or I am a religious person. I'm a man or a woman of integrity. Look, that could be a giant of fear, of failure, and fatigue. But you know what? Leaders are not afraid of giants. In this time, during this dispensation, we're going to face a lot of giants of fear, giants of failure, giants of fatigue. But let me tell you this. If you begin to look at the lessons and the life of David, rising up from a shepherd boy into a king, from an unknown person to a known person, leaders are not afraid of giants. You can hit your giant with the best shot and bring them down simply because you trust is in God Almighty. Godly leaders are not afraid of giants. Godly leaders, they face their giants of fear, failure, and fatigue, and they are able to move into the mountaintop of success and significance. I want you to understand that godly leaders are simply human. Noah was simply human. Abraham was simply human. And so was Joseph. And David was simply human. But their trust was in somebody who was not human, and that is God. Godly leaders have this fundamental trust in God the Almighty, and through His grace and power, they are able to do extraordinary things. And I believe even you can trust in God. You could be faced with circumstances in your office, and you feel like this is the end of me. This is going to bring me down, this particular challenge or situation. Leaders are not afraid of giants. You could be in the marketplace, and you feel like your business is coming down. The challenges that are there are so profound. Remember, David, that leaders are not afraid of giants. The mountain that is so much before you, that seems like it's so unsurmountable, you can surmount it. Whatever is taunting you, you can crush it. and move yourself into the mountaintop of success and significance. I came to encourage you to raise up to the occasion and become a godly leader. The world is in need of godly leaders. There is a vacuum for godly leaders. We just see people who call themselves leaders, but there is really no action and the spirit of leadership that you can see getting displayed. People trust in their own chariots, people who trust in their own power, people who trust in their own might and their own connection. But look, you can display a different spirit. You can display a different power. You can display a different wisdom in such a time as this. And I believe as you do that, you will be able to succeed in a mighty way. Are you interested to engage us even more? Kindly connect with us through the numbers and the content that is passing through your screen. You can visit our website. You can give us a call. You can send us a message. We are currently doing an intake for the professional speakers course, October class. Great leaders are great communicators. Remember, one guy said, if I could start all over again, I would go back to school and learn how to speak. Maybe it's you. You say, I have great content. I have profound wisdom I want to share. But how are you going to share it if you don't know how to communicate? That's where the Africa Center for Public Speaking comes in, to equip you and help you become a great communicator that can influence your own world. You know, they say most of the best thinkers are not leaders today. Why? Because they cannot communicate. That's why we offer this to you, to equip you and shape you to become a great communicator. But we also have the intake for the Mentality Change 101. Africa has to change, or people in Africa, we have to change the way we think if we have to take ourselves to the next level. And so Mentality 101, which is based on my second book, Public Speaking, Eradicating a Poverty Mentality, is available for you. And you can register for that particular course, which is done virtually. And believe me, your life will never be the same. Great to hear from you, friends. Ruth M. Kimause following, Peter Karori, Richard Mutinda, Paul Karaoke. May God bless you, and see you next week, same time, same place for the Raw Leadership Talk.